Welcome to Monster Monday. So we are going to be talking about Terrified, not Terrifier, like I'm sure some people would see and be like, he's not a monster, he's a slasher villain. Terrified is one of my favorite films of the last decade in the horror genre. I think it is near flawless. My only gripe with the film is some CG stuff that just doesn't look great, but outside of that, I think the film is pretty much perfect. I think it's legitimately fucking incredible. I love the film, and every time I've watched it now, it just gets better for me. This is, I think, my fourth time watching it now, and I just picked up the Blu-ray. It's on Amazon right now for $10. I saw it on there. I went and looked for it and it was like $10. I was like, fuck yeah, dude, $10, absolutely, let's do it. And yeah, it just, as soon as I got it, I got this and Hellfest, hence why I did this is Slasher Sunday, Monster Monday. I couldn't get to Wolf Creek this week. I'm sure you guys saw. Jen was sick. I never had any time to watch shit. And I'm trying to catch up on everything new for October, so that's why that's there. But whatever. Anyway, so Terrified. My good God, man. The atmosphere of this film. I want to give a really quick shout out to Alex from Beyond the Void horror podcast. A buddy of mine, he had me on his podcast one time, and we talked about Aramentari and Terrified. So this is kind of like our film. It's our film. But yeah, so if you want to hear my discussion on there, check out Beyond the Void podcast and look for the episode with Terrified on it, and you'll hear me on there for a couple hours discussing this and that other movie I was just referencing. But yeah, so there you go. Let's talk about Terrified, which is really just a terrifying film. Genuinely, I think this movie is so fucking freaky, so unsettling, so just eerie, and just every kind of word I could come up with that is scary. I just think this movie is excellent. I can't say enough good about it. Like, it's just crazy to me that I've talked to people that are like, oh, it was fine. That's a lot of people I know. Like, there was kind of a joke going on Facebook when I was saying I was watching this, and a few of my friends, and one of them in particular, likes some shit that is so unbelievably, unnervingly boring to me. And then he watches this and he's like, it was alright. And it's like, what? People are crazy, man. People are weird. People are different. And that's totally fine. Differences of opinion is totally fine. And if you don't like my opinion, you can watch somebody else and maybe their opinion will line up with you better, because some of you are complaining about my taste in film, and you can fuck off. You can fuck right off. If you don't like what I have to say and you don't feel like I give you good enough recommendations, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of other YouTubers that do this shit. I am not a rarity. I am one in a million, man. Or one of a million. There you go. I think I'm one in a million, but realistically, I'm one of a million. So, anyways, but yeah, got a comment recently that was like, okay, don't watch my fucking channel if you disagree with me so much. I don't know what to tell you. You know who you are. And yes, I'm talking to you. Anyway, moving on. So this opening, we get the wife, he comes home, he's talking to his wife, she says, I'm hearing voices that are coming from the sink. This makes sense later because we see the young boy who's hit by the bus, his blood is washed down into the sewers, and the sewers is where the voices are coming from, much like Pennywise and It. And so the voices tell her, I'm going to kill you. And they keep their promises. Holy fuck, do they ever. Just that opening scene right there alone. Just that, where they're going to kill you. And then it just has this music and it cuts to the title. That is fucking beautiful before we even get like one of the greatest opening moments I've ever seen in a film. Just that on its own is great. And then they elevate it exponentially for me. So where he thinks his neighbor is like hammering on the walls, so he goes over next door, yells at him, comes on back, still keeps hearing the hammering, realizes that it's coming from the bathroom. And this bathroom scene, man, this bathroom scene had such an effect on me the first time I watched it. I was so not expecting it. It happened so early on, and it is so vicious. It is so freaky. Like, he walks in, and the true, like, not only like horror, but genuine confusion on what he's seeing on his face is perfectly conveyed by this actor. Like, he walks in and it's just like this breakdown of like everything he knows in reality just kind of like falling apart before his very eyes, and really just kind of trying to process the moment while also, like, you know, reacting to seeing his wife, the love of his life, fucking being bashed into the wall as she is. And he's like, he doesn't know how to process it, and it takes him a moment. I mean, how would you feel if you walked in? The way her body moves, the way the wire work is here that makes her body move in a certain way, it kind of jerks and moves quick, and it's like hovering, and she's got like this almost weightlessness to her body, but then like the impact has like the exact opposite effect, where her body looks weightless, but when she impacts the wall, it looks like her body has fucking tons of weight to it, and it hits, and it's just so brutal. When she hits that wall, it is so impactful, not only to her body, but to us, the viewers. God damn, man, it is so freaky. It's so unsettling. It's so tragic. The way he's screaming, you know, he's grabbing at her, and he can't stop it no matter what he does. He's just screaming and pleas and pleading, and then she's just boom, like face first too, just face first into the wall, and blood everywhere, prints. It's gnarly. That scene alone, this movie's fucking fantastic. That scene alone, I feel like the film is worth watching for. Like, if that was just a short, that'd be the greatest short I've ever watched. Like, this opening with that guy and the girl in the bathroom, and boom, 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 and then, you know, he's screaming out, and then credits. Fucking phenomenal, man. I would just be like, dude, that was the coolest short I've ever watched. But there's so much more. It just keeps going, and we get scene after scene like this that works that well for me. It just elevates itself more and more. This is such a fantastic, like, it's not even a haunted house movie, even though it kind of plays out like this. It's more of like interdimensional beings that exist and are able to transfer through light, through like the prisms of water, or like bacteria, or like this microorganism that can grow within water and reproduce and fester and whatnot. It's a very interesting premise, because my belief of like ghosts and whatnot would be that we have dimensions that lay on top of one another, and we get little glimpses on the other side of things. I've explained this on the channel before, and this mostly came to me from listening to Carl Sagan discussing dimensions, and how it's a really cool video where he's explaining the first dimension, which is just kind of like, you know, flat, and then there's like the second dimension, which is like up and down, and then there's the third dimension, which is up, down, and around. And you know, he in that video, and Carl Sagan's talking about the different dimensional planes that the people on the, like, if there were beings that lived within that first dimension where they only can see this way and that way, we would be imperceptible to them. They wouldn't be able to notice we were there, because we're not in their dimensional plane. Like, they can't even register that we exist, even though they're there and we're there. We're just the different variations of the dimensions, whatever. It was a really cool thing, and that's kind of what I got from this, where he looks at it at one angle, and I love that it's not only like an explanation for what's going on, but it's also used as a scare tactic in the film. He looks in the mirror, or through the window, and it's like the being's over here, and then he looks this way, and like there's a beam in the middle, and when he looks at it this way, it's gone. There gone, there, gone, there, gone, and then boom, it's like right on the camera. Great stuff, man. Really good gag there, and it goes with the explanation of what's happening within this film, that you can only see these beings in a certain light, in a certain dimension, in a certain, point of view. You got to change your point of view, and you can see them. You can't see them this way, but you can see them this way or that way or this, whatever. And that's just some trippy ass shit, man. And it goes, as I said, it kind of goes with my own beliefs in a way. So that really worked for me as well. And then, of course, the husband is arrested and taken in for questioning, and he's put into a psych ward, from what I can tell, which makes perfect sense. Why would they not think he was responsible for this? But they bring in these paranormal investigators of sorts, and lots of strange occurrences are happening on the street. Of course, we get the kid getting hit by the bus sequence, which is just absolutely fucking crazy. It's just so, like, it's so vicious, but it's like, I don't know. He walks out into the street, so I think a lot of us are like, oh my God, he's going to get hit. But it's the way he gets hit and the fact that it's completely shown, and just, it's so devastating. It's such a little kid. The guy runs out and he goes, Alicia, and he runs out and he like tries to get her attention, and it just like cuts to later on. It's brutal, man. It's brutal. And then they just wash his blood down into the sewer and all that. Ugh, it's just so fucked. And then they bring in, so now we meet our main characters here, which is Funes the detective, and he brings in Wano, and Wano is this morgue, or like, he worked for like the city morgue, whatever, and while he was there, he saw some strange happenings, and this kind of led him down an investigation of the paranormal. And of course, like, no one believes him except for some of his colleagues, which we see in this movie, Rosentalk and these other people. And then so he brings in, Funes brings in Wano to investigate this very strange occurrence of this young boy who has seemingly walked back to his house from his grave. And that, to me, might be the freakiest scene in this entire film, and one of the freakiest scenes I've ever watched in my life. When they walk in that room and they see the dead kid at the dinner table, I was so fucking creeped out in the moment. It legit, like, I want people to look in the papers around the time this was filmed and please confirm to me that, where this movie was filmed, that there was no, like, children's bodies stole from graveyards. Because that was a real kid. That's a fucking real dead child sitting at that table. My brother and I were just like texting each other after this movie, and we're like, dude, that was a dead child. That was a human dead baby kid sitting at that table. How they're like, that is so disgraceful that they would actually use a real dead child. Obviously, I'm kidding. It's not a real dead kid, but fucking Christ, does that look like a real corpse to me. And just the way it's positioned, the way that it's framed, the way it's all just so unsettling. They walk in and the kid's sitting there, and the mom, who's lost it, like, poured him a glass of milk and made him a bowl of cereal. And Funes goes up and he like checks his breath to make sure that this kid isn't actually alive, and he looks at his fingers and he sees they're all torn up, like he's been digging at his casket from the inside. And then he goes and they walk away and they turn off the lights, and while they do, the milk gets knocked over, and then the kid comes from next door and he looks through the window, and then the fucking, the dead kid's head slowly turns and his eyes turn towards the kid. That shit is amazing, terrifying Scary shit, man. The fact that anybody could watch that and be like, yawn, lame, I don't get it. I don't understand. But we all have things that scare us, and we all have things that creep us out, and some, some things that creep me out won't creep you out, and you'll find it boring, or maybe you don't like subtitles, or who fucking knows. But my God, this movie is incredible. It's seriously one of the best films, one of the best horror films in recent memory. And I don't know, man. I know there's other people out there who love it. But for me, I don't feel like it's loved anywhere near enough. And I know everyone thinks that of every fucking movie they love, but I just genuinely feel like this one should be talked about so much more. Like, this should be talked around, this should be brought up with the likes of, like, Hereditary and fucking The Witch and all of these like really highly respected horror films. Yes, there's a split in the community on whether they like those films or not, but from the people who love them and the horror aficionados, a lot of them are like praising the shit out of those things, and they make it so high on the lists of like bests of, and this film just doesn't get that attention, and it's a shame. And I don't know. And it's foreign too. People usually blow foreign films harder than American cinema, so it's odd to me that this one isn't more loved and talked about than it is. But who knows? I don't know. When we say that, what do we even mean? There's people talking about, like, people have to talk about the film all day, every day. All they post about is that film. Otherwise, it's like they don't talk about it enough. I don't know, but still, I still feel like I never hear it talked about. I love when Funes brings Wano in, and he's like, nothing scares you, right? And he's like, depends. Let's see. That's a fucking great exchange. That's such a great introduction to Wano's character. Like, you're kind of known to not get scared, and I'm going to ask you. And the guy's like, well, I mean, you never know. Let's see. You never know. Let's see. That is such a great response. I love it. I love it. I love every fucking thing about this film. As you can see, I'm like a kid in a candy store right now. I'm so excited. And then I kind of already talked about all this shit. Funes has some disabilities here. He's hard of hearing, and he's a hemophiliac, and he seems to have some kind of like heart issue as well. Maybe the hemophilia, would be the cause of that, or we don't even know if he actually is having a heart attack. He's kind of guessing. He's self-diagnosing, so maybe he's having a aneurysm, or I don't know, whatever. He seems to be all right, though. He's driving himself. I don't think you could drive yourself if you're having a heart attack. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I don't know. Then they go in to investigate the houses, and then there's like the magnetization effect, where everything's kind of being pulled towards this rift and these beings, and then like all the silverware's up on the wall, and then the guy puts his hand there, and the knife goes up through it and sticks there, and they have to kind of like coax the thing this way to like allow for the knife to come out. That's really cool. Like that gag a whole bunch. But yeah, these things are almost as attractive as I am. So wow, I mean, that's really impressive. And then, yeah, as I said, the window gag is really cool. I like that a lot. I feel like people might have been able to see it coming, but I don't really care. I still think it's a very effective, very well done version of that back and forth, and there it is. Yeah, it's been used before, but it's used very well here. And the CG is just... The film is so good that I don't care. Like, would I prefer it to be practical? Would I prefer the hand that comes out of the head and that breaks that girl's neck to not be CG? Absolutely. It's funny. Every single time I film Slasher Sunday and Monster Monday back to back, because I have to watch them back to back and then record the reviews back to back, and I literally stop Slasher Sunday and then I immediately just press record and start doing Monster Monday. I don't even give myself a second break in between, and I always yawn during Monster Monday. always. It's so funny. It's just like it's 2 a.m. right now, so it always just seems to be like right at the end of Monster Monday because I'm coming to the end here, and I'm just like just starting to be like, all right, I'm tapping out, getting a little tired. We're 20 minutes in, so that's fine. We got a little more, but let's get it. So yeah, that girl's neck gets broke, and then the mom comes while he's having some kind of a heart malfunction, and he talks her into she's broken. She's like, you convinced everyone that I was crazy and you're an asshole and this and that. And then she like brings him out to the car and he looks in the back seat and that fucking kid is in her back seat and she's just like, I couldn't leave him, could I? And he immediately like goes to his car, gets in, and then we get such a fantastic shot of that doctor lady with her neck broken running at the car. It's like out of focus. You can see it, it's coming at the camera, and it's such a great shot to like let it just kind of keep coming at you, and then boom, it hits, and it like you realize what it is, and that it's just beautiful. Mwah! I love it. I love that shit. And it's so creepy. It kind of reminds me of Styles from In the Mouth of Madness, when Trent's out there and she like comes out and her neck is backwards and it's been broken. That's great stuff, man. It's just great stuff. She just smashes into the car and he drives off, and then he tells all the cops like, get the fuck away from there. No one can go around there. I gotta go burn this place down. And then he goes back and he dunks freaking petrol everywhere. I've been watching some Australian movies lately. So petrol. And yeah, he pours it everywhere, and then that dead kid's in the room, and the poor mom, she's hung herself. I would feel like he would like pull her down from there and try to give her CPR, but I'm assuming he's just like, dude, I gotta burn this house. So he like pours gas all over her. It'd be fucked up if once he lit it, you heard her inside screaming. That'd be messed up. But I like when he's trying to light the match, and Wano is there, and he's just like blowing out the matches right next to him, but like he has to kind of turn his head to see him doing it, and the guy's like eyes are this like red freaking protruding gelatinous thing. I don't know what the hell is going on with his eyes, but they're freaky. And then the guy kind of backs up and shoots it. That sparks it and lights up the house on fire. And then we cut to the guy that's still in the psychiatric ward a year later, and Funes is missing. He's led to be believed to be the perpetrator of these murders. They think that he killed these people and burned their bodies in the house. And he just like, the dude keeps like looking over their shoulder, and he's like, hey, and he slides the picture, and he's like, you brought this Rosenthal guy with you, no? And he's like, he shows him, and then they look back and the chair moves. And then when the chair's thrown at the camera, that's silly. That's an unnecessary thing. The chair moving on its own, it was plenty. The last jump scare at the camera, that's a flaw, no doubt about it. It's CG, looks like shit. It's a cheap gag. I don't like it at all. It shouldn't be here. The chair moving on its own with them in the room is plenty. Cut that fucking last second out of the film, and it's a much, much better ending. But man, they're believers now, let me tell you what. But man, I feel so bad for this dude in the opening when he's like calling in trying to get some prescription medication. I don't know why he keeps going back to his house. That's kind of silly to me. I don't know, but whatever. He goes there, and like he's trying to get proof, and he's filming, and then this thing's like in the closet, and then he like looks, and it's under the bed. And when you first see it under the bed, this creature, this monster, this is Monster Monday, so the creature itself, the monsters that you see, and their bodies are all distorted and bent over each other and it's a freaky ass looking monster, or monsters within the movie. Those things are seriously freaky. Like when he comes out of the bed, like when he comes out from under the bed and his legs are like backwards and he's all contortionist style, when he's coming out of his armoire and all that stuff, it's really crazy. Just totally eerie, great stuff, man. I love that whole sequence, and then he wakes up and like all this shit is like everything in his room is like been pushed to the center and like surrounding his bed. This poor guy, man. Like no one ever helps him. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. This poor guy can't get any help. And he's dealing with like the most terrifying shit ever, and his neighbor wants to kill him. He's like, shut the fuck up in there, and the guy's like, please help. So yeah, I feel super bad for him, and I feel bad for everybody in this movie. There's I love the characters too. I love the way that this movie is shot. I love the way this movie looks. I love the story. I love the explanations of everything. I love the scares. I love the setup to the scares. I love the execution of everything. I love the look, the aesthetic. I like the dialogue. I love the characters. Like everything in this movie, the outside of some just CGI and a bad ending choice, it's near flawless, man. Like, this is like a 9.9 for me. It's like there's such minuscule little things that I can't give it like a perfect 10, even though I probably still give it a 10 just because that's so close. It'd be dicky not to. Or maybe I'd be forced to give it a 9.5 because I do have those little issues, and that's not a perfect film. But whatever, I don't know. I have an issue with the very, very last like 10 seconds of Hereditary and this like over expositional thing that I feel like was shoehorned in by the producers. Like, you have to explain it so the audience will get it. And Ari Aster was like, do I? And they're like, if you want this money, you're gonna. And he's like, oh fuck, alright, I guess I'll explain it to the idiots who didn't get it. And so like there's that like 10-second issue I have with the film. Outside of that, I think it's a masterpiece. Is that really worth taking it down a 0.5? I don't do ratings anyway, so I'm not going to stress it. I don't even know why I'm bothering with this, but what I'm saying is that there may not be a perfect film out there for anybody, and perfect is subjective, right? And I try to just watch films and be objective. So it's a near perfect film for me. If you haven't seen it, I don't know why you're watching this at this point, but if you haven't seen it, man, seriously watch it. It's fantastic. And pick up the Blue. It's pretty cheap on Amazon, and it's absolutely worth it. So anyways, bedtime. Adios.